My name's Scott Parker. I haven't always been a middle-aged suburban dad. I grew up during the 1980s in and around Los Angeles, hanging on every lyric and note from bands like The Clash, X, Gun Club, and the Ramones. These artists encouraged me to pursue my own path through life, which has led me here. Death or Glory are the stories told by the rebels and raconteurs who continue to inspire me to live a life on the road less traveled.
Death or glory, just another story.
Joining us on this episode of Death or Glory, our internet pioneer and drummer of the Barracudas and Lords of New Church, Mr. Nick Turner, and lead singer of Supernaut, 20 Flight Rockers, and the International Swingers, Mr. Gary Twinn. Thanks for sitting down with me, guys.
Cool.
Hey, there's a rumor that came out of Australia years ago that you like it both ways.
Oh my
He does,
goodness.
apparently. Yeah.
How many times do I have to hear that?
Had to do it. Had to do it. So is there any truth to that?
No, there's no truth to that. You mean sexually, right?
I'm just saying that it's a broad rumor.
There
It's
are
like-
rumors. There are
yeah,
rumors.
that Gary
People
Twinn,
are talking.
singer from Supernaut, likes it both ways. Where did that come from?
Well, it's because of, in Australia they have Vegemite, and in America, in England we have Marmite. So, it's about the choice between the two. That's my story.
Yeah. But wasn't there a song?
You're talking
where-
about the song, yeah.
Yeah.
The song came about because in my first band, Supernaut, which I was singing in when I was in high school, three of us were British immigrants to Australia, and we started this band, but we weren't the greatest musicians. But the bass player who joined was a much better musician, and but he also was a little bit light in the loafers. He was good with colours. And
He was decorating the captain's quarters.
yeah, but I had never met anybody like that before, and so rather than just come out straight and ask him if he was gay, I just decided to write a song that alluded to it. It was kind of a cheap way of getting out of it, but you know what? A lot of people dug the tune, and it was a huge hit,
Right.
and people are still talking about it to this day.
And the video is amazing. If you're watching this, as soon as it's done, Google Supernaut, I like it both ways. You will not be disappointed. And then in the 80s in London, you were in 20 Flat Rockers, you were in Lords of New Church.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for me back here, it was this great combination, both those bands of like early punk rock, Gen X, Clash, but motorcycles thrown in there, which was a huge part of the visual and,
Right.
and thematically it was motorcycles. And so obviously you guys, I would assume, played together during those times and hung out during
Yeah.
those times.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for us here, or at least me, it was really, really fucking cool. I mean, it was the whole deal, the music, the image, but when you guys were just doing it in London, what was it like? I mean, was it a premeditated thing, or is it just kind of came up and everyone's kind of on the same page and that's what ended up happening?
I think it was just something that grew. I mean, there was a kind of a rocker scene in London at that time. Everyone was wearing the studded jackets and the belts, and obviously the big hair and the whole thing. Obviously, the Lords was, Brian James from the Damned and Steve Baders from the Dead Boys, and sort of a punk supergroup, and Dave from Sham 69. And we just started, wearing leather, and I had a Triumph, a chrome Triumph. I used to drive around London and with all the studs on and the hair and the whole thing. And Gary's band were there as well, and there were a bunch of us who started getting into that whole look and feel and enjoying that scene. And then when I came to LA, I think I finally moved to LA in '87, got a call from Gary, I'm coming over, can I stay with you? So he came in stage, and I had in England I had a 68 Triumph, here I had a 77 Bonneville, I think. And of course Gary couldn't get around, so I lent him my Bonneville, and off he went. Never saw him again. That was pretty much it. And then obviously Gary was sort of the centre of this whole English bike scene that developed in LA in late 80s. What was the Powerhouse and that whole scene. So there were all the LA guys with their Harleys, and there was a whole scene with all Triumphs and Nortons and everything else.
Right.
It was a lot of fun.
But in London, it was kind of because you in 20 Flat Rockers, Mark Laff from Gen X was playing with you.
Yes.
So both these bands had members of the punk, their first English punk pedigree.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the next evolution of that line.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was a move on. Yeah, it took all the best elements of punk and rock and roll. It got back to rock and roll again, I think. You know.
Right.
And I mean, for the 20 Flat Rockers, our whole thing was that we just wanted everybody. It seemed to us looked like really gothy at that time, you know. And so we didn't want to look like that. We wanted to look like the Beatles in Hamburg. That was our
We
thing.
looked a bit gothy, I have to say.
But that was our thing. You know, the other three resisted getting their hair cut at first, you know, for the quiffs. But the reaction we got when we went out was worth it, you know.
And I remember being in Portobello Road and seeing Brian James walk down Portobello Road, and he had the black leather and the hair perfect, and he looked just like the archetypal punk rock star. I mean, he just looked incredible. And then sort of to be asked to be in a band with him, you know, a year later, 2 years later in Stiv, and was unbelievable. And in fact, you know, they asked me, I was playing in a band called the Barracudas at the time, and that was doing pretty well. We had a club in London, and we were running. And they came along to the club, and they saw me play, and they said, you know, would you come and rehearse? I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I rehearsed with them, and then I got a call from Paris to go and play at a club, at the opening of some rock magazine. Would we play at this club for the Barracudas? And Barracudas couldn't do it. The singer, I think, was in Canada. And so I said, the Lord, do you want to go to Paris for the weekend and all expenses paid? I mean, you know, all the champagne you can drink. And guess what? They said yes. So that was the band, and we were called The Things for one show. I think we rehearsed, we played 6 numbers. I think we played 6 numbers again. And we went to Jim Morrison's grave at Père Lachaise in Paris, flew back, and we were a band. That was it. And off we went.
Obviously, being in a band with Stiv and Brian James, that, I mean, it had to have been trying at times to put it.
This isn't going to be public, right?
If you don't want to be public.
No, I'm kidding. Look, they were incredibly talented people, still are. Well, you know, Brian's obviously still around. But there were issues. There were definitely issues, you know. I mean, Brian is a fantastic guitar player, fantastic songwriter, great riffs. But, you know, he did like to have a drink or two. And Stiv, you know, would be up for 6 days and sleep for 6 days, and, you know, was one of the best live frontmen you've ever seen. I mean, he'd hang himself from his microphone cord from the ceiling and crawl into my bass drum while I'm playing literally inside the bass drum, and he'd do all sorts of stuff. And I miss him. He's one of the funniest guys you've ever met, and he should have been a stand-up or a comedian because he was that funny. And I really miss him terribly. But, you know, these things happen. And growing up, for me, you know, obviously the first time you see the girls screaming at the Beatles, you go, I want to be in a band. That looks good. That's the job I want. Well, yeah. And then later you see Iggy, you see the Clash and the Ramones and Patti Smith and, I don't know, the Stray Cats. What a fantastic live band they were. And you go, oh, I want to do that. And you know, when you're actually doing it, and you realise just how good a band you're in, it's very exciting. Right. I mean, there are nights where we just killed. There were nights also where it was the worst abomination you've ever seen in your life. And those nights were typically in LA or New York, the important nights. The next night in New Jersey was incredible.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But that's part of it. I mean, I've always thought that's the great bands always teetered on that fine line of it's like, this is at a point where it could take off and become something bigger than the guys up there. Or it could go in a giant ball of flame. Yeah. You know, and I mean, you know, definitely Lords and you know, I thought that's what was great being here when Guns N' Roses were playing clubs, because that was, you don't know what was going to...
Well, they used to open for us, you know that.
Yeah, oh yeah. So Fender's Ballroom.
Fender's Ballroom.
Yep.
They opened for us, and I remember the band, when Axl was late, what a surprise. And so
that hasn't changed.
They went on stage and started playing. And then Axl finally shows up and jumps up with them. And that was one of the best Lord shows. I remember that being a fantastic show.
See? Not LA, it was in Long Beach.
Exactly. But The Guns N' Roses, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of similarity there.
Yeah.
In fact, later down the road, we went. We were Guns N' Roses, but I think Axl obviously had an incredible voice. They wrote incredible songs. I mean, Appetite for Destruction is a great record. No question about it. And they managed to, with all their issues, alcohol, drugs, and the whole thing, they managed to be big enough to get through it in some way.
Right.
And you see Duff and these guys today, and doing very well.
Yeah. I mean, but that element of danger. I mean,
Yeah.
but a real element
That's
of
what
danger.
rock and roll's all about.
Not a manufactured element of
Definitely.
danger. And I mean, not danger, but like this thing's going to
Yeah.
implode on itself is great, and I think it's a big part of a good rock. I mean, at least for me, those were all the bands that I loved. Like this could go terribly wrong at any second, and that's what's great about it.
When we used to go and see Johnny Thunders played, and you actually
Yeah.
used to take bets on how quickly he was going to fall over. Which numbers he going to fall over in,
Right.
No, not that I'm condoning that in any way, but it was kind of fun to watch.
The falling over, the betting on
Yeah.
falling over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Reason for falling
Yeah,
over.
I saw Giant Thunders at Fender's Ballroom again, and I think LA Guns opened for him.
Right, sure.
So there was a lot of monkey business
Yeah.
going on, and it's when he started the show Crucified, and then he'd come down, down the drum riser and out in front, and he came down off and just got to the edge of stage and kept on going. Like, all right, that's out of the way. We can get back to the show. But I mean, that stuff was great. I've always enjoyed a great performance. Like when I saw the Clash of the Palladium, I was 15. It was a perfect storm. I was 15, and just I still haven't recovered. It's why I'm sitting here with you guys, for sure. But then, I think one of the other great shows I saw was at Faith No More at Raji's, and it's when they had the original singer, and not Mike Patton, and 3 songs in, they just had words with each other, and it went to blows, and it just was this giant fight right on stage. And I remember my friends walking out going, "Look, I just paid $5 and only saw 3 songs." I was like, no, you're missing it. That was the best $5 I've ever spent
Exactly.
in my entire life. That was great, And so, I've always been attracted to that sort of stuff, and like the real danger and things like that,
Perhaps something that's slightly missing from rock and roll or rock today.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree 100%.
Death or glory.